Okay, so I'm finally gonna make my prediction of the Super Bowl here. Um, the Broncos and the Panthers literally both have tons of connections to Super Bowl 50, so it's a really tough choice. But I'm gonna pick the Panthers, and I'm gonna recap here and try to re-explain a little bit. I'm not gonna go into every single detail. I'm already just it's taking way too much time the way it is. But the Broncos seem to be more connected um, by certain numbers and certain things, but at the same time, there's certain numbers that I feel like they coded both of these teams, and then they're just like picking out certain aspects of that code that are going to win, and I can't figure out what they're picking out. But there's also a storyline that goes along with it. Actually, there's multiple storylines, which makes it even crazier. But they've really, really hit on the Civil War type theme this year, and it sounds ridiculous that the black guy would win, the Black Panthers versus the White Broncos, but I think that the Black Panthers or the Panthers are going to actually win because of the narrative. And like I said, I'll explain it a little bit more, but even like the Broncos might be a little more connected, but like the Mets were also connected a lot to the number 111, and they lost the 111th World Series to the Royals. New York equals 111. They play in Queens. Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day. And then the Royals had other connections, but it wasn't always to the number 111. So just interesting. Also, the Broncos are connected. It's their 56th season, and that number has just been put on bad things this year. Paris, France equals 56. ISIS equals 56. Ronda Rousey equals 56, and she lost her 12th fight, which I'll explain later too, but I believe that the number 12 is not a positive number, and I think the number 21, in certain aspects, is a positive number, and it just so happens to be the Panthers' 21st season, which I'll get there. But anyway, so we've had the Civil War theme, Civil War slash Moses, because they both freed the slaves, Abraham Lincoln and Moses. There's a Back to the Future theme, Chicago Bears, also Batman and Superman. And I honestly don't even care who wins the Super Bowl whatsoever. I just want to show this coding and how it's foreshadowing other events that happen. They kill people by these numbers. This coding does exist and it is being used. It's just a secret language that we weren't supposed to know about. And I mean, I even talked about the Super Bowl being coded to Back to the Future and the Chicago Bears well before even like ESPN and all the other media things started talking about it. ESPN even just the other day had 30 for 30 of the 1985 Bears. So, though, in regards to the Chicago Bears and Back to the Future, the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl 91 days after the Royals won in 1985. And the Royals just so happened to win on the same day that Back to the Future ends, October 27th, 1985. Interesting is also the day that the World Series began this year. But this 91 sticks out a lot because Chicago Cubs equals 91, the team that was supposed to win in 2015, and also Chicago Bears, if you read it out in Gematria, equals 91, and then the Bears won 91 days after this. And even when Marty gets back to 1985, he gets his Toyota 4x4, and it has KC on the grill for his KC Daylighters, but it's definitely just foreshadowing the Kansas City Chiefs winning the World Series, or Kansas City Royals winning the World Series. It's also more than obvious that they're doing a race war theme. I mean, every time they interview Cam Newton, it's about race. He even had that one interview where he said it's about more than race or whatever, and blah blah blah. It's just there's just multiple race aspects being put in our face. It's so obvious. None of this should even have to do with race. It's all because he's a black quarterback, I'd assume. But the thing is, there's been other black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. It really doesn't make that much sense. And they're really, really putting it in your face. If you can't see it, just start really looking at some of these articles and whatnot. It's absolutely obvious that they're doing a race theme. and it's the Black Panther versus the White Bronco. So anyway, let's start by looking at the Chicago Bears theme a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to mention everything. You can watch my previous videos. You can come up to my blog and read that. I mean, I don't have everything on my blog. I kind of just started it about a month ago. But, I mean, there's tons of information. It's too much to rewrite and re-talk about. I might forget a few things, but anyway, talked about Back to the Future and the Kansas City Royals. And Back to the Future 2, they go to 2015. They mentioned Chicago, and the Cubs are supposed to win. So I figured since it's 2016, Back to the Future 2, the coding is over with, so they moved on to Part 3. Interesting, in Gematria, Back to the Future 3, if you read it out like this, equals 86. The 1985 Bears won the Super Bowl in 1986. Also interesting to point out, Broncos adds up to 86. But like I said, a lot of times if a team adds up to something, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. Also, Doc Brown goes back to January 1st of 1885. Interesting, 85 Bears, 1885. The movie takes place in 1985. That's the main setting. But January 1st, 1885, 131 years ago. The word Super Bowl equals 131. They even, when Marty comes back into the future into 1985, they have to use the train to push the DeLorean to get it up to 88 miles an hour. The train is even train number 131. But since the Royals won the World Series, I knew the Bears weren't going to win the Super Bowl. But I figured it had to be a team that was coded to the Bears. And I originally thought the Chiefs. Like I said, you can go back and watch the videos on that. They were super coded to the 85 Bears. But they ended up losing after the game where Alex Smith got his 31st win as a Chief. And 1985 was 31 years ago. There's lots of 11 around Alex Smith. I believe he's number 11 in his 11th season. Tons of stuff with him with 11, but the 11th prime is 31. So, I don't know. Like I said, there's something about the coding that I was missing, and I believe that was one part of it. But, I mean, I also failed to look at the other teams that were coded to the Bears. The Panthers coach is Ron Rivera, who is a former player on the 1985 Bears. The Panthers also had the regular season record of 15-1, just like the 85 Bears. And I mean, also in their playoff games, have you noticed the 31s? They were winning 31-0 at half against the Seahawks, and then they finished the game with 31 points. The halftime score of the Cardinals game even added up to 31. Interesting, halftime equals 38, just like Panthers. Remember in the national championship this year in college, Alabama won. Alabama equals 13-31. A lot more to that as well. I mean, 31 just seemed to be like a winning number, so. Also, the Super Bowl is in California, the 31st state that was founded on 9/9/1850. Interesting. Their flag here is the bear, because the official state animal is the bear, the grizzly bear. This drawing was even something to do with, based on Grizzly Adams, which I have a whole nother post on that as well. But the guy who drew it was Charles Knoll, who died on 3/1 of 1878, just another 31. Also on ESPN, they put this little stat on a Cam Newton interview, and they said he was 30-31-1 as a starting quarterback in his first 4 seasons. That's also a 21-second clip, which I'm telling you, 21 is a positive number and not a negative number. But this picture right here doesn't include this season, so, I mean, he actually finished last season on his 31st win. So just proving my point that 31 is a good number. Alex Smith got his 31st win as a Chief, and then they lost to the Patriots. So, interesting number. Also, last year, when he got his 31st win, it was on 1/3, January 3rd, which can also be written as 3-1. He even had a long rush of 13 yards. Then they ended up losing to the Seahawks, and the Seahawks beat them with a score of 31. But this year, the Panthers beat the Seahawks with 31 points. They also beat the Cardinals when they scored 49 points. And if the Panthers win the Super Bowl, it will be Cam Newton's 49th career win in the 49ers stadium. You know, the Golden Super Bowl, the 49ers, all dealing with gold and whatnot. Interesting, too, is the only tie that he's ever had was against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the score was 37-37. Carolina equals 37 and 73 the big way. He also threw 46 passes. I mean, Chicago equals 37 and 46. Chicago won Super Bowl 20, 46-10, using the new revolutionary 4-6 defense. This year is also the 46th modern era Super Bowl. It's the 50th Super Bowl, but the 46th modern era Super Bowl. Also, Levi's Stadium, where the Super Bowl is being played. Levi's Stadium equals 46. Peyton Manning has only won one Super Bowl. It was when he was with the Colts. It was Super Bowl 41. Interesting, the word Super Bowl, the small way equals 41. But he won it against the Bears. And the score was 29-17. That adds up to 46. It also just so happened to be the 37th modern era Super Bowl. So Chicago equals 37 and 46. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. I believe that 46 is like the positive number for the Bears, and 37 is the negative number. So interesting, this year is the 46th modern era Super Bowl. So it really comes down to which team is supposed to be mirrored or whatever of the 85 Bears, which I believe is the Panthers because of their 15-1 record, just like, you know, the 85 Bears. But then once again, you can counter that by saying, but the Broncos have the good defense. So, I mean, who knows? Also, only two black quarterbacks have ever won the Super Bowl. It was Doug Williams, who beat the Broncos in Super Bowl 22, and Russell Wilson, who also beat the Broncos in Super Bowl 48. And so Cam Newton, if he wins, he'll be the third black quarterback to win a Super Bowl and beat the Broncos. The Broncos also originally played in Bears Stadium. The Broncos do have lots of coding to the Bears, and the Broncos do have a lot more coding to the Bears, but like I said, both teams are so coded, so I'm not going to really talk that much about it. I've done it in previous posts. I want to move on and kind of involve some of the reasons why I think that the Panthers are going to win. Well, I only have another minute and a half or so on this video. I'm going to make more parts, but I just want to get a small point across here. One of the big reasons why I think that the Broncos aren't going to win is because they're connected to this number 56. This is their 56th season in the NFL. Lots of bad things with the number 56 have happened this year and also in years prior. Paris, France equals 56. ISIS equals 56. Osama bin Laden equals 56. Saddam Hussein, Rockefeller, Adolf Hitler. He even died at age 56 in April, the only month that adds to 56. Abraham Lincoln even died at the age of 56 in the year 65. He also died in April. Also died in Washington, D.C. That adds up to 56. I mean, lots of bad things here. Ronda Rousey equals 56, and she just lost her 12th fight, which I'll get more into that in a little bit. I said 12, I believe, is a bad number this year, and 21 is a good number. And the Panthers are in their 21st season this year. But interesting, though, because Broncos don't really add up to 56, and I noticed sometimes there's a difference in the coding. You know, if it's their 56th game or something, it might be different than if they add up to it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It really just depends on even the date numerology. There's a lot of factors that go into it, so. Interesting stuff like Black Lives Matter and equal rights also equal 56, though. But Yep, I'll see you in part 2.